Welcome to Black Dragon Gaming. We're back with another Lord of the Rings Rise to War video, and today I wanted to give a few tips on how to beat whales, because I know that this is one thing that frustrates a lot of players in the game right now. And for anyone out there that's struggling with this and thinks that it's just a pay to win game, I don't think that it quite is, because when it comes to whales, there are limited things that they can really buy in the game. The problem does come when whales get together into one faction, which I have made another video on about that. I will leave something at the end of this video so that you can view that in your own time. What I will talk about first though is when you do get into the game at the start of the season, if you find that you're in a warband or a fellowship that just doesn't have a lot of players, there is an opportunity for you to change faction, so that way you can get into somewhere that does have a little bit more players in there, that's a little bit more active. Make sure that you join a warband or fellowship that does have a lot of players, so that way you can benefit from what they do as well. Another thing, when it comes to your warband, don't forget, when you go into your warband, there are a few things in the store that can help you along the way, such as your mock battle tokens, which we'll get into that a little bit later. Make sure you always grab one of them each day. You also have all of your resources that you can boost for 30 minutes. They can always come in handy just to help you along the way as well. Alright, so let's have a quick look in the Matham store, because this is one of the areas where the whales tend to get their advantage. For all the free-to-play players, make sure that when you go in here, go into your wish list and check for your blue, purple and gold for the items that you want the most, depending on the commander that you're trying to get. Only set one for each commander, so that way it's not giving you too many options, because what will happen is it doesn't increase your chances to get one of these items, but when you do get the item, it does give you an increased chance to get that particular one that you're after. So make sure that you select for whatever you want to collect first. Okay, so every day make sure you get your free one. I don't mind spending the 200 gems depending on if you have these or not. You can do that. It's a bit of pot luck as to what you get, but more times than not, you're going to be left with just the green and blue gear. The other thing that you have to remember every day is to do your tips. You always get this one here that will give you a random item. Hit go, send someone out to collect that. Then you'll have your various ones here. Make sure you always do these. So I've got one here for Sauron. So not only does that give 3 commanders 40,000 experience, but I also can start building towards collecting Sauron. There's that one there. What I would recommend, if you have 200 gems saved up, spend them on refreshing this. Don't refresh it before you collect those first 4 tips, otherwise you'll lose them. So collect them first, then refresh, because you always have a chance to get these 4 and 5 star ones as well, so you can head towards the tier 3 commanders. The next thing that you want to have a look at is in your ring powers. There's this one down here, the powerful sweeping. A lot of people think that this is just for when you sweep mobs or maybe land tiles, but this will work in PvP as well, giving you an extra 10% for any stationary army that you attack. The next thing that we're going to have a quick look at is the commanders. Right, everybody wants to get the tier 3 commanders. You want level 50s, you want the best gear. The problem is when you first start out, even as you move towards the end of season 1 or start of season 2, you might not have a lot of commanders. It's perfectly okay if you wanted to use your tier 1 commanders. If you've got someone like Khaldun, you'll probably have Agzok, which you start out with. I'm not sure which ones are the good side, because I've never played as the good side. But, Grima, he's another good one. Whatever you've got, if you do have them at a higher respect level, make sure that they're the commanders that you focus on. And it's very important that you only focus on one commander at a time. And that actually brings me to my next point. When it comes to commanders, if you have a look down here, a lot of the screenshots that I'll see from players asking who they think is best and all the rest of that, you'll see you'll have level 35, level 33, level 30. People are trying to level up their commanders all at the same time. And that's why you always feel like you're on the back foot, because you'll see players that have level 50s and you're struggling to get your players up to level 30. So what you need to do, pick your best commander, whoever that may be. If you do have a tier 3, go with that. For tier 2, you've got really good ones like Kamul, you've got Lurtz, even the new one, Kerwan, you have the Shadow, Gorbag, Mouth of Sauron. There are so many good ones that you can collect. If you get them, make sure that you focus on them. Take that commander all the way up to level 50 before you worry about doing anything else, because once you get a commander at level 50, it makes it so much easier. You can capture 200 power tiles just with that one commander, one hit. Straight away, you don't have to worry about sending in multiple armies or getting people to help you. This commander will be your lead commander for all PvP battles. Once you have that commander at level 50, it's so much easier just to get the next guy up there. What will happen is once you're able to take those 300 power tiles, you can send those commanders in for mock battles, and you can get them from level 1 to level 30 just in one session of mock battles. So in the early part of the game, what you're going to struggle with is the good quality land tiles. If you're somewhere around here, you're not going to have too many big ones to worry about anyway. So what you want to do is make sure that you get all these land tiles just to build up your resources. You don't want to be mock battling on them because you're not going to see the benefit. What you want to do is just look around your map just a little bit. You're going to see mobs on the map. Now, because we're towards the end of Season 2, the minimum level is going to be much higher, but at the start of the game, you're going to get a lot lower level mobs around the place. These guys will not only give you good experience, but they will also give you your resources, and they'll give you your speed ups for buildings and healing and all the rest of it. One thing that a lot of players seem to forget is that it doesn't matter whether you're free to play or whether you're a whale or someone that spends somewhere in between, whether it's a little bit or spends a bit of money here and there, just collect some gold. But when it comes to your barracks, once you max this out, you have the same amount of space in there as everybody else. No one gets extra barrack space just because they spend more money. So what's going to happen is when you try and fill all of your armies, that's the other thing that people get so frustrated with. They have all these commanders, they want to do everything at once, they see people doing so many amazing things, but even the whales can only really fill 7 commanders once they get to level 50, and that will empty the barracks. Now if they go out into a battle, all of a sudden that will empty the barracks all in one go, and they're going to take a couple of days to build that back, as well as healing. So don't feel like you need to have 5 or 6 good commanders just to be competitive, because that's not the way it works at all. The other thing to keep in mind is early in the game, everyone wants to level up all of their units. If you have a look here, my tier 2 units are all level 1. My tier 1 units, still all level 1 on their abilities. Do not spend gold to upgrade those lower tier units. The simple fact is that when you get your tier 1s, after the first week of the game, you're not going to use them again. So why waste a limited resource on things like tier 1 units? The same can be said for the tier 2 units. You don't really have them for longer than a week and a half maybe, before you start producing the tier 3, and that's when you start upgrading your units. Depending on the faction, not all units are going to be as useful. So just be wary of which order you try and upgrade them in. And also don't think that loading up on Mummakill is the answer to everything, because they can be countered. So please don't fall into that trap thinking that that's the answer to beating whales. They will crush you and you'll be sad. Now if you are finding this video helpful, please leave me a like and don't forget to subscribe so that way I can provide you with a lot more information, strategies, and even my thoughts on certain areas of the game. The next thing I want to talk about is gear. So a lot of people get confused. So I see a lot of pictures as well on Facebook and places like that where people are trying to ask for the best combinations, and I'll see a lot of 1-star gear or just base level gear. Now just because you have a piece of purple gear or a piece of gold gear doesn't make it better. Okay, if you have a quick look at some of the stats here. Alright, let's just pick a hand for example. I'll just go ahead and upgrade this. I think I've got enough to do that. Okay, so now we have a maximum level blue piece. Okay, you have a look at the might on that. You've got 15 right from the start. Okay, now you can't refine these, so they're only going to be limited, but they're good for most commanders just to fill their inventory with. If you go to a piece of purple gear, you've only got 8 might to start with. So until you start to upgrade that, you're not really going to see any benefit from it. So use the blue gear, which you get far more of, until you've got better quality purple gear to use. And even the gold gear, base level gold gear, is still not going to have the same benefit. Now don't get me wrong, there may be other pieces of blue gear that have better stats. This one, even a base level, has got more than this gold gear. So that just goes to show you, by doing up your blue gear, you're going to see a better effect than worrying about all these players that have got gold and purple gear. Now one thing that I recently did is I went through all of my purple gear and I just started upgrading everything that I had. So yes, I have lost a few things, but that doesn't really bother me, because what I want to do is make sure that I've got 5-star purple gear where I can. As I get a little bit more gear, I will actually have all of these upgraded. Then as you get the duplicates, make sure you save any duplicates so that you can refine them later. And the same thing with my gold gear. I had a lot of small pieces of gold gear. I just put them together, and as you can see here at 4 stars, we've got 45 might that I can put on alerts. And here's a commander that really likes to have the might, and also helps up with some of his ranged attacks as well. Right, and I also went through, I did the same thing with the headgear, with armor. Be a little bit more careful with the accessories because you don't get as many of these, so therefore if you spend them all by upgrading equipment, you may not actually have enough to put on your commanders. So the idea behind doing all of this is, what you want to try and do is get top gear to put on your one best commander, because this is the guy that is going to help you when you go up against some of the players that spend a lot of money in the game. I won't lie to you, it will take time to build this up, but don't use base level gear on your commanders, it won't help. So what I'll do is I'll go and I'll have a look at Lurtz for example. Because I've put a lot of his gear together, here's one of the best commanders for the evil faction, even though he's only tier 2. But when his gear is maxed out, it doesn't matter whether I've come up against a player that spent $10,000 on trying to find all of this gear, I'm still going to be super competitive against him. So the next thing that I want to have a quick look at, in the Matham store, you've got your exchange over here. A lot of people get confused with this. You don't have to spend gems on items. They did take away the ability to destroy gear, so now everything has to be these Matham vouchers. What I would do with some of the stuff that you have, when you get these little green respect items, I always exchange them for Matham vouchers. So what will happen is at some point, say for example, if I want to get the Witch King to a higher level, I just wait until this is the Ancient Dragon scale. Once I've got 150 vouchers, as soon as that rotates, which happens every day or so, I will make sure that I buy that particular item with those vouchers. I don't spend them on anything else because they're pretty hard to come by. The other thing that you can do is in the tavern, you have the man-at-arms. A lot of people want to try and sell their equipment so that way they can get some gold. But if you have a look at this, even if I sold all my green gear, I've got 9,600 gold. So it's not really worth it. What I would do, what I do actually do, so I've got the Witch King selected here. You go to impart, select all of your green gear. If you do have enough to supply 5 or 6 commanders with purple gear, so that you don't actually need the blue, you can add the blue as well. Alright, that builds up. So what will happen is, as you get to each of those 4 points, you get an extra skill point that you can add to your commander. Then the other thing it will do is if you change the gear on that commander, it doesn't start from 0 familiarity with it. You can actually start at 50%, so you can get the benefit of all those stats a lot faster. So the next thing that you might also want to take note of, hopefully one of my mates is doing this here, when you go to attack another army, don't go in and send your armies one-on-one, because what will happen is if you do come across a higher level opponent, they will destroy you. Always attack so that you have multiple armies moving at once. If you are a lower level player, then you want to make sure that you utilize this strategy. Alright, if I want to attack him, I could send the Undying first. If you have a look, he'll take 5 minutes and 43 seconds to get there. You'll see this information as soon as you tap on the commander. Then what I can do is if I want to make sure that I beat him, I might send the Witch King, who's 5 minutes and 17 seconds. So what I'll do first, I send the Undying in, I watch that timer. Once that gets down to say 5 minutes and 16 seconds, so that way I know that the Undying will hit first, then I'll send the Witch King in, and that way he can really do the bulk of the damage if the Undying doesn't quite do the job. You can do this even as a free-to-play player. Send one of your slightly weaker armies in first, and then the commander that you've really been building up with the higher level, with the better gear, send him in. As long as he hits within 5 seconds, they will both join the same battle. And that way you actually have an advantage when you're attacking that army. Also remember that there's no point in getting in over your head in a battle. If you're with a decent warband or fellowship, allow the better players to go in first so that you can take advantage of what they put in place for you. Just start by clearing up land tiles, or even jumping into a battle that results in a draw, so that then you can jump into something that the bulk of the battle has already been taken care of for you. There's no shame in starting a little bit slower and just working your way up until your characters are strong enough to take on some of those bigger battles. Everybody has a place in the game whether you spend money or not, so don't feel like you're that disadvantaged just because you want to be free to play. A good warband will always help you out no matter where you are in the game. That's it for now guys, hope you've enjoyed the video, hope you can take all of these tips on board and have a better advantage against some of the better players in the game. Again, if you did like the video, please leave me a like and don't forget to subscribe for more content like this.